Hiya, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts and I hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to be trying out snow globes. Now, most people have seen the Artsymadwoman video that she made of a snow globe and it was inspired. Turn the light bulb mould inside out was inspired. Now, I have made a snow globe before. I made a teddy bear snow globe and I will link that in the top left hand corner. It's a slightly different technique, but the same at the same time. You'll see if you watch the video. But I had a client that requested two particular snow globes, one with a Christmas tree and one with a snowman. So I just had to get creative. I hope this inspires you because I absolutely love the results. I couldn't stop making them. I think I've made 5 so far. I love them to bits. I might even made 6. I don't know. I just kept making them. So I'm hoping this will inspire you. Enjoy the video and I'll be back at the end. To start with, you are going to need a sphere mould. This is a 10 cm sphere mould which I bought in a set from Amazon of about 8 different moulds. You're also going to need a light bulb mould. This is from Lathe resin and I'm trimming up the bottom. Louise Singleton did this and it's a brilliant idea. If you trim out the bottom and take the stand parts off of this very old and worn mould that I've used so many times it's unreal, then you can turn it inside out and the stand parts don't get in the way, so it doesn't alter the shape of the inside of the mould. This inside out light bulb mould then becomes the insert for the large sphere mould, and that will go in the centre to give you a void when you fill it with resin. Now you are going to need to stop it from falling in completely, so I decided to use a barbecue skewer to skewer the mould and to lean it on the top of the sphere mould. Everything I've used in this video will be linked in the description box below, together with Louise Singleton's video and Artsymadwoman's video. Now that I've made these snow globes, I know that this type of mould is not the best type to use and it's not a mould I would recommend. A solid sphere mould with solid sides that is not going to bend under weight would have been much better. But this is the mould I bought, so this is mould I'm going to use. And when I've made sure that the skewer isn't too long, then you need to fill up the centre of the light bulb mould with weight, or it will float when you put the resin around it. Now you could go through the math route and make sure it's heavy enough. I did a lot of guesstimating, which is probably not great, but once I'd done one and I had the right amount of weight in it, I just used the same amount of stones and weight the second time and the third time and the fourth time. So I put gravel in first so that I can actually push it into the hole of the mould. Once it was in the mould and I was happy with the way it was sitting in the mould in the centre, then I placed it into another mould so that it would keep it upright. I'm going to use JDiction resin here. It's really good for deep pour resin. Even though it's not advertised as a deep pour, it's really good for deep pouring. Just as long as you don't overdo the deep pour. But for this sort of size, it's perfect. Pouring the resin then down outside of the light bulb is when I realised that it started to float. So I needed more weight. Now I didn't want to pour the gravel in case it went over the side, because I'm quite messy, into the resin itself. So I added lots of little tiny pebbles until I was happy that it was not floating. So it's a bit of a balancing act with the weight here. You need to balance it between not floating and not sinking. And once, like I said, you've got the right weight, then if you make it again, you use exactly the same amount of stones the next time. So after a little bit of faffing around, I made sure that it was centred, that it wasn't down too far, and that it wasn't floating. And that is the main points. This light bulb mould is quite small compared to the sphere mould. I could have used a smaller sphere mould, but the next size down I had was too small. I did put this in my pressure pot because I was using a resin that was a 24-hour cure resin. You don't have to. If you don't have a pressure pot, you could use a longer cure resin. JDiction do a longer cure resin, which is a 72-hour cure resin. And although you have to wait a few days for it to cure, you don't need a pressure pot with that. 24 hours later, and I can take it out of the pressure pot and take the centre out. So I tipped all the stones into a jug so that next time I do one, I can use the same amount of weight. And taking the light bulb mould out was a dream. At this point, I'm extremely happy with how the centre has now got a void, and I think it's come out really well. So I need to measure the hole at the top of the sphere mould, and it is 5 centimetres. Now I'm going to cut a piece of plexiglass as a lid, if you like, to the void that's in the centre. It'll also be the base for the item that I'm going to be putting in the middle of the snow globe. Now I need this plexiglass to be round, so basically I just snip around the outside until I've got a circular shape. And it is a little bit bigger than the opening, which is 5 centimetres. But before I put the lid on, I need to fill the hole with glitter and sprinkles. So I have some glitter from Yvonne at Resin Supplies Den, which is a really gorgeous glitter. Resin Supplies Den is a little Facebook group here in the UK, and they sell everything to do with resin. So if you want to check out Resin Supplies Den on Facebook, I'll put the link in the description box below. I have some clear glass balls. They are glass, they're heavy, and I figured that that would help whiz the glitter and everything else round because they're heavy. And a lot of different little shapes and pieces that you pick up from places like Wish, and they come with a lot of things that you buy on Amazon. All have these little pieces with them, and I just got an array of them and I put them in the bottom. And I didn't think that I put that many in there, but it turns out I'd put loads in there. You don't need to put that many. This particular snow globe wants a Christmas tree in it. So I've drilled a hole in the bottom of the Christmas tree, and I'm using UV resin to secure the Christmas tree to the underside of the plexiglass, which I've also put 2 holes in. One is a fill hole for the liquid, the other is for a screw for the Christmas tree. And the reason I'm using UV resin is because I don't want the screw to rust in the water. It needs to be completely isolated from the water that's going to be inside the centre of the snow globe. So I cured it up, making sure that it's completely away from the water. I then put some UV resin in a squirty bottle. These are little bottles which I've used before in the past. This is quite a big one. And I'm using the tip to put the UV resin around the outside lip of the hole from the centre. This will secure the plexiglass into place, and it will also create a seal so that the water can't escape. Now, I wouldn't recommend UV resin as glue, but it is going to be backfilled with resin, so I just need to make sure the resin can't seep into the water. So now it's time to put the Christmas tree and the plexiglass in through the hole. This was a little tricky, but as it's quite a thin mould, it did bend out quite nicely, so I can get it inside and make sure the Christmas tree is in the centre before I cure it up. I balanced the UV lamp on some cups so that it was nicely above the sphere, and yeah, cured it up. And I also put a small amount of resin in a small dot on the mat and cured that up as well. This little bobble of resin is going to be the hole plug, in case you're wondering, and it's just perfect for that. Now I need to fill the centre with liquid. I'm going to use distilled water and vegetable glycerine. Now, the measurements that I used aren't necessarily what you have to use. I just used 50-50 distilled water and glycerine. That's it, just 50-50. They mix really well together. I did put a little bit more glycerine in because I didn't think it was gloopy enough. The glycerine is what makes it gloopy. You can put a 60-40 mix in, you can go further with a 70-30 if that's the type of gloopiness that you're requiring. But I used 50-50 and every subsequent snow globe that I made, I just used 50-50. And then I used a squeezy bottle to fill the void up. Now it's worth mentioning here that I put the glitter in dry. On every other snow globe that I made, I mixed it with a 50-50 mix of liquid in a tiny cup and poured it in wet. That is because the glitter stuck to the inside of the void and it was very difficult to get it loose to start with. When you put it in with liquid, just a little bit at the bottom, then it stays away from sticking to the edge. But once you've got it near the top, you have to burp it. And burping it basically means you keep getting the air bubble near the hole so that when you put in the liquid, the air is coming out. And it is a little tricky, and I had a bit of a snowman issue with that. I put a little snowman in here and I wish I hadn't because he was blocking the hole. But you don't want the water to come out and run over the resin because then when you pour the back resin in, it might be damp. So got to make sure that the air is out, the water is in, and the top is dry. When that's done, you can plug the hole. Now this little piece of resin that I cured on the mat is going to be the plug. So I'm putting UV resin around the hole, putting the plug of the hole on top, directly on top of the UV resin, making sure it's nicely pushed down and curing it. And finally, it's ready to have its base. And I chose Vista White colour for this. It's a solid white colour, very creamy, very beautiful white. And I just filled it up to the top. So 24 hours later and it's time to demold, and this is the most exciting part. I've never made one of these before. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a success in some shape or form. I wasn't really prepared for what it actually looked like, to be fair, but everything was in there, so it should be looking okay. But a lot of isopropanol alcohol down the side made I could make it really slippery, but it made it a little too slippery. Whoop. One day I'll learn. I don't know when. Once it was demolded and I shook it around, I realised there was far too much glitter in it. Some of the white had seeped over the clear, so that needed sanding off. But the thing that really struck me was the fact that it had a flat head. Now this is the weight of the resin, the weight of the stones pushing down on the circular mould. It is a thin, cheap mould, and it's not designed to take weight like that. So, apart from the fact that it had a flat top, the glitter was all stuck around the inside, and I thought, really, I've got nothing to lose. Let's put it on the lathe and turn it into a proper sphere.
Come on up, come on in, get together for a good time. Smile, my dear. Come on in, come on up, come on over. We'll be dancing.
So at this point, I thought it was a disaster. I thought this isn't working, and I might as well just try and turn it into a sphere and see if I can get anything out of it. The glitter that was stuck on the inside of the mould, I thought would just stay there because I thought the resin must have been sticky, the glitter stuck to it. And I figured once it was stuck, it was stuck. It wasn't going anywhere, so what have I got to lose? This was actually really fun. I really enjoyed turning. I absolutely love it. So anything like this is a lot of fun for me. I'm using my homemade sphere cups, and I'll link the video to that at the top right hand corner if you haven't seen that one and you've got a lathe and want sphere cups. They're really easy to make, so yeah, check that video out. I'd just like to say a big hello and welcome to all my new subscribers. Thanks for joining my little channel, and if you haven't subscribed already, maybe you would consider doing so. It doesn't cost anything and it does help my channel out. A thumbs up is always really appreciated, and don't forget, if you've got any questions or comments, please use the comment section below. I always get back to comments. So once I'd turned it into a circular shape, I then sanded and sanded and sanded and polished and buffed. As I had to make 2 of these, I thought I wouldn't put you through the whole process again. So I'm going to do a quick 8-point guide on how to make a snow globe.
And it's all too late. Come on in, come on up, come on over. It's the friendliest time of year.
Turn the light bulb mould inside out, place it inside the sphere mould, fill it with stones or weight, and fill up the outside to 3/4 full, making sure it's balanced properly and supported.
So let us have a swinging Christmas.
Cut a piece of plexiglass to size, attach the insert if you're using one. If you use a screw, make sure it's completely watertight with UV resin. Choose whatever glitter or sprinkles you want to put in and mix it with a small amount 50-50 mix of glycerine and distilled water before you pour it into the bottom of the recess.
A swinging Christmas, just like 1, 2, 3.
Use UV resin to completely surround the opening of the centre of the sphere so the plexiglass insert is airtight in the centre. And don't forget, there should be another hole to fill it up. I used a 50-50 mix of vegetable glycerine and distilled water. You can change that, it's not bog standard. You can choose it to be more gloopy by adding more glycerine.
I can barely find the time to sleep.
I used a tiny plug to plug the hole and used UV resin to glue it in.
Oh, please, but this is my favourite holiday. It's a chance to start
I used white for the base of mine, but you can use any colour you want.
letting go of everything but you. These are the good times.
Using isopropanol alcohol or soapy water can get a sphere out of a mould really easily.
Hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to
But don't make it too slippery.
be? Christmas memories. Oh, and
Well, it wouldn't be me if I didn't do that, would it? I actually thought I'd broken it, but it was perfectly fine, and I'm so chuffed it was. It wasn't as badly out of shape as the last one either, but they were a pair, so I put it on the lathe and did all the same steps as before. Well, I absolutely am thrilled to bits with these snow globes. I think they turned out absolutely gorgeous. I'll put some B-roll up so you can see what I mean. The Christmas tree was a disaster to start with, but I put it on the lathe and I salvaged it and it turned out better than I thought it would, to be honest with you. It is gorgeous. The snowman, absolutely amazing. And some people like Christmas trees, some people like snowman. Me personally, I wanted a Father Christmas, so I made one for myself with a Father Christmas in it, and I love it. I've made one for my sister. Shh, don't tell her it's for Christmas, with Winnie the Pooh in, because she really, really likes Winnie the Pooh. And I've made one with a penguin in because, you know, why wouldn't I? Those penguins are adorable. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're going to try this, make sure you've got a solid sphere mould. You could do it the way I do it, but you might have to turn it on the lathe afterwards to make it spherical. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for watching this. I hope you've got something out of it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. I always get back to comments. Thank you so much for watching this. Have a great week. Happy crafting, and bye for now.
if I spend it with you. Just you and nobody else. It's so good to see you again. To see you again. Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, yeah. I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's Christmas memories.